Our next speaker will be Anne Marie. Yes.
Okay, I didn't prepare anything. I didn't know I was going to talk. So, I live 3 minutes away from the school, and on a daily basis, it takes me a minimum of 10 minutes just to get through the line of traffic to get to the school. And it's not all parents going that way because my daughter's been going there for years. It is literally people going all the different side roads and trying to get to the quickest way to get to their Velo and all of that. I have personally had 3 experiences where I almost got hit in my car with my daughter. I have had people where they are either running late, maybe for a flight, I'm only assuming. I don't know if they're Uber pickups or what, it doesn't matter, coming and going. Where I have actually had to swerve because people were at the lights and they're rushing and they're going, it's completely ridiculous. I've had to slam on my brakes at least 2 times, again, because of the chaos that is driving around there. That is not from the school at all, because we all go in one direction. We all know everybody. We're a tight-knit community, and these are not people that we even know. I think that it's something that the mayor and the engineering department have to take a closer look at to plan. As if these were your own children. You have to think you have playgrounds there. These kids don't just get out of school and it's the end of the day. Bye-bye, have a great day. They're literally riding their bikes to school, out of school, up school. We have parks there. And we have flashing lights, we have speed bumps, we have a crossing guard who holds up a sign as high as she can. And it is still not enough. We still have people on a daily basis, when she is holding up the stop sign, people are literally going around other people to get by. I see it on a daily basis. Please, I'm just asking for the safety of the children, which is literally your jobs to do and to take care of. And to make sure that the children are not being put on the back burner instead of a big corporate, I know that it's all for the neighborhood. I understand that. But this is not benefiting us at all. I have lived in New Haven 3 minutes from the school, 3 minutes from Avelo for almost 20 years now. It's been 19 years this year. And I have never once gotten a notification that you guys are just that New Haven is going to be doing any of this roundabout anything. If it wasn't for this public Facebook page that we all love, we have, because we are a close-knit community, nobody would even know what's happening. I think you guys should ask people who live there their advice, maybe their suggestions. Maybe you'll get something. We live there every day. We know where people are going. We know where they're coming. We know. Maybe send out a questionnaire so that people could give you feedback you didn't even think of, because it's not your world. It's not your place to be. Send out something to people who've lived there. You have lots
That
of
is
people.
time.
Okay, have a good day.
Our next speaker is Addison Samuels.
Hello, my name is Addison Samuels, and I'm a student at Nathan Hale School. I have been here since I was 4 and in kindergarten. I am now in the 6th grade. My mom recently told me that people who are going to fly Avila would be going the same way that we cross the street for school. I know some people like to drive really fast and go over the speed limit when catching a flight. The crossing guard is is a really good crossing guard, and it would be sad to see her get hurt, or one of my schoolmates getting hurt while crossing the street. I hope this rule does not go through due to safety reasons and many more reasons. I hope if they do implant the rule that the drivers could be more careful while driving. In conclusion, I hope that everyone is safe no matter what happens.
Thank you. That concludes the in-person speakers. We have 2 people with their hands raised. Gloria's iPad, please state your full name. Ms. Downer, you have to give me again the host so I can man the chat.
Hi, can you hear me?
What's your name?
My name is Gloria Bellachico. Can you hear me?
Hold on one second.
Okay.
Nicole Gilmore?
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Gilmore. That was my daughter that just spoke, Addison Samuels. Thank you. I'm very proud of you. We have been residents in the community in the Cove area for the past 17 years. I have my daughter Addison, her twin, as well as my son CJ. So they have been attending the school for the past 7 years. I do want to state that I see that it was noted in the article from the New Haven Independent that traffic does not affect our morning drop-off, but it does affect our afternoon drop-off. It may not affect morning now, but it does affect afternoon. There are days when I'm stuck caring for my elderly parents, are stuck at work, and those are the days that I'm forced to have my children walk home the 4 blocks that we live from the school. And I literally have to stay on FaceTime with them the entire time because the traffic is horrendous. There are people coming in and out of our community who don't care for our children. They're speeding up and down the roads, even people within our community and people outside of our community. They don't have a care for our children, so their safety is really, really top priority. And also in the time that I've been a Nathan Hale parent, there are days when our crossing guards are not there. Days when our crossing guards are not there, I will physically get out of my car and cross children. Not only my own children, I will cross other children because to see someone possibly get hit is very dangerous. In the time that I've been there, I saw our former assistant principal, Mr. Voisin, actually hit by a car. And also in the time that I've been there, I've seen at least 20 to 25 near misses of crossing guards get possibly getting hit. It's very scary. Our children are in danger the 5 days a week that they are going in and out of that school. But to speak on the time when our children are entering the school, but not speak on the time that our children are exiting the school, I feel like it's very dismissive and it needs to be addressed. Our children are in danger. Our children matter. Just because we live in the Cove area and it's so quote unquote a safer area does not mean that our children do not matter. Our children matter just as much as any other public school student in this city. And we will continue to stand for them and we will continue to fight for them and continue to teach our children such as Addison and Aveline to advocate for their community. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker now is Gloria's iPad. Please state your full name.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Gloria Bellachico, 300 Lighthouse Road. I do not have a student that goes to Nathan Hale, but I'm a resident that's very concerned in the increased traffic from Tweed into the neighborhood. Currently, traffic stops at that stoplight by Fort Hale, and it stops the airport traffic from going in front of the school. So drop off and pickup is a huge problem there. The other day, Friday, was early dismissal, and there's a funeral going on at the church at the same time. It was incredibly busy. Tweed will tell you, and the city will tell you that they'll put signs up saying, in this new traffic pattern, saying to the cars not to use Burr Street during these hours. Let's face it, people in New Haven do not follow street signs. If they did, there wouldn't be parents parked on the side of the road to begin with. And there wouldn't be cars parked at the airport all over the place on the other residential areas. Besides pickup and drop off and the increased traffic from the airport, endangering the lives of our most vulnerable residents. Even if they were to change the hours of Burr Street with the cars, there's still the fact that the children play alongside Townsend Avenue in the playground during school hours. It just exposes children who already suffer with breathing problems, with asthma, to increased pollution from the exhaust from vehicles. I apologize because I don't have anything right now, so I'm going to kind of be all over the place. That's also important, the exhaust from the cars, the pollution. Also on October 6th, there was a pedestrian that was hit while walking on Townsend Avenue and the vehicle evaded. They left the woman lying on the road. No one talks about this. It took me months to find the woman who had been struck. It's very disturbing that this was kept quiet. And what's even more disturbing is that this traffic circle that's going to circumvent all the traffic from, well, most of the traffic from Lot C, which is the biggest parking area at Tweed, and the drop-offs and the arrivals, it's just really gonna endanger the lives of the children, the senior center. I mean, it's just a crazy traffic circle pattern idea. And I think that they should keep it the way it is or think of another traffic solution. This is just not acceptable. Thank you.
Miss Gloria, that is time.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Shelley McKinnon.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay. So hello, my name is Shelley McKinnon, and I know that most people, I've never done this before, most people have been talking about the traffic plan around, let's see, join as a panelist. Okay. Sorry, I got a weird alert. I know that most people have been speaking about the Nathan Hale traffic issue. I am actually a parent at Worthington Hooker School, so I hope I'm not speaking in the wrong order. But I am here today to speak on Assistant Principal Clarino's transfer from Worthington Hooker School at the end of the year. I'm a parent of a kindergartner at the school, and I am deeply troubled by this decision. Jenny Clarino is an extraordinary assistant principal who works with our youngest and most vulnerable children at our K2 building on Canner Street. Worthington Hooker School is it's such a special place, and it's a happy place. And a huge part of what makes it special is her leadership at the school. She greets my son each day with a warm smile. And I mean it when I say that he has repeatedly expressed to me that she is her favorite person or his favorite person at the school. As a parent, I have been extremely comforted by her presence at the school. From day one, whenever I reach out to the school for help or with questions, Jenny herself immediately jumps into action, making me and my family feel heard and incredibly supported. I know that if anything comes up, I can count on her specifically to be there for us, for the students, the staff, and the entire school community. After communicating with other parents and observing Ms. Clarino in action with our children, it's my understanding that the Worthington Hooker community as a whole will be devastated by this decision to move her. In fact, I have not spoken to a single parent who supports this decision. We all know that consistency and continuity is key for both student success and a positive school climate, especially with children this young. If Dr. Negron and the Board of Education move forward with this decision, it will be obvious to me that this is more about adults and adult politics than it is about what's best for the children at our school. I really love New Haven, and I believe in New Haven public schools. From someone who lives here and plans to spend decades raising her children in New Haven, I beg you to please listen and to understand how negatively this type of decision will impact hundreds of children and families. Please show the New Haven community that our voices and our opinions matter and that our children matter. Thank you for your time and consideration. That's all.
Thank you. Our last speaker is an iPhone 15 Pro Max. Can you please state your full name for the board?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Alice Blossom. I am a lifelong resident of the East Shore here in New Haven. I am also a former student of Nathan Hale. I attended Nathan Hale from kindergarten through 8th grade, and now both of my children are attending Nathan Hale as well. My youngest child will be starting kindergarten in the fall, and my older child will be going into 2nd grade. And I just want to talk about the opposition that I have against the proposed traffic circle. It's just downright dangerous to be adding that much added traffic through an already congested and dangerous Townsend Avenue. If you've spent any time, which most of us have, at pickup or drop off in the morning or in the afternoon, it's dangerous. I've almost been hit by cars. I've seen children almost been hit by cars multiple times. It just doesn't make any sense at all to reroute the traffic from the airport past an elementary school. It puts the youngest members of our community at risk, and I don't think it's been well thought out. Um, it's just dangerous overall. And the only other option, if you don't take Townsend Avenue, is to take Woodward Avenue, which is narrow because the infrastructure of this neighborhood is not built for that much additional traffic. There's also a playground that many children travel to after school gets out by walking or riding bikes. It's not safe to have that much additional traffic traveling deeper into a residential neighborhood. Um, and I've lived here, like I said, my entire life, and the traffic was never like this. I started walking home from school to this very house that I still live in when I was 11 years old. And I used to walk home and it was fine. I could never imagine sending my children when they're 11 years old to walk home from school with the amount of traffic that there is now. And especially if there were to be added airport traffic also coming through the neighborhood. It's just, there needs to be a different solution. It's not safe. It's not safe overall. And it's not fair to put the youngest members of our community at risk to only benefit the airport, because let's be honest, to relieve the traffic on Fort Hill Road mostly only benefits the airport. It does not benefit any of the children. It doesn't benefit the families, anybody that's traveling to or from Nathan Hale. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the public speaking portion of the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you. Next on our agenda is approval of the minutes of March 4th, 2025.
I move.
Second.
Thank you. Who seconded? Ms.
Daniel
Downer?
Juarez.
Oh, Mr. Juarez, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, we will vote. Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Mr. Juarez,
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Ms. Downer,
Yes.
Mr. Musser is not here. Ms. Cologne is not here. Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
thank you. I'm a yes as well. That motion carries. Next is the personnel report of Dr. Negron. Dr. Negron?
Good evening. I'm asking for approval of the personnel report. In there, you will see that we have two retirements that I wish to highlight. Ms. Patricia Harkins, an English teacher, who will be retiring on June 30th after serving 31 years. And Mr. Thomas Merritt, a science teacher, also retiring on June 30th after serving 27 years. And that concludes my personal report.
Thank you. And congratulations and thank you to our retirees. Mr. Wilcox?
I move we.
Second.
The internet has been unstable.
I don't know if I was asked to vote, but I vote
The
yes.
superintendent's personnel report has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, we will vote. Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Dr. Joyner?
Yes.
Dr. Joyner?
Yes. Could you hear me?
Dr. Benitez? They are frozen.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Downer?
Yes.
Mr. Juarez?
Yes.
Mayor Elicker?
Yes.
Dr. Joyner?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Juarez?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm a yes as well. That motion carries. Finance and Operations Committee, Mr. Wilcox?
Right, thank you. Before we get started, is there anything anyone would like to move separately?
Ms. Downer?
Yes, Mr. President, I'm actually looking for 7.2 and 7.3 to be moved separately.
Certainly.
Thank you.
All right, first thing is one change here is we had the request to remove purchase order 7.01, which is the multi-year could be considered and presented to the F&O committee at our next meeting. So the other next thing is I am going to move item 5.02 separately. This was categorized as a agreement. This is actually year 4 of a true multi-year agreement that was approved by the Board of Alders. And so it's thought that this would be better as a purchase order, but so I'm just going to move now that we approve item 5.02, which is year 4 of the multi-year agreement with the Connecticut Association for Performing Arts.
I second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Dr. Joyner?
Yes.
Dr. Benitez?
Yes.
Ms. Downer?
Yes.
Mr. Juarez?
Yes.
Mayor Elicker?
Yes.
I'm a yes as well. That motion carries.
All right. Next, I move that we approve items 7.02 and 7.03, which are purchase orders for ABM coverage for permitted event support services and floor support at events at FLAC and some of our other high school locations.
Second. Any discussion? Mr. Wilcox?
Just as a reminder, these two items were tabled by this board at our last meeting. We heard more information about it at our previous Finance and Operations Committee meeting, including we received a memo which should have been posted for the meeting materials this afternoon for tonight, stating that there was not any cases where what we are proposed to pay ABM for was paid to SJ Services. And we've all heard issues with SJ Services, and so we will be having this in a at our next Finance and Operations meeting, a discussion item solely on that topic. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Downer?
So since the last meeting, I kind of like, I'm just not settled with it at all. I got the chance to look at the RFP dated back from 2022. And there was a few things that sort of stuck out with these contracts. One of the things that it was actually calling for in one of the requirements and general conditions is the monthly invoices in detail. And it was those detailed invoices should be provided to the COO, which would have been acting COO Mike Carter. Mr. Carter himself has said he didn't receive it on a monthly time. We are now looking at billing for 3 months here. The other thing that it requires our vendors, and ABM is our vendor, to be trustworthy and reliable at all times. So the contract, the RFQ is written, and I'm pretty sure the same language still stands when the city of these large magnitudes of these contracts have the same language in it, where the contractor is responsible for the assignment and also to provide us internal support, especially when we have these type of events, whether it's at FLAC or whether we're at Cross or these major schools. They failed to do that. The other thing that stands out a lot is these contracts are binding. And we tend to move from that when it comes to accountability. The board had no warning signal. This is some of the things that we have actually been promised, but apparently, the school system is working on it. But for something like this, where we have a blatant contractor refusing to do our work and breach our contract, and no one told us. Like I said before, I'm for sure that ABM has a similar language. So why ABM, which is our facilities management company, which is our vendor, didn't tell us? Why do they wait till now when it gets up to like $200,000? So to me, there was a failure to meet our contract obligations. ABM is indeed engaged with Estee Services. And at some point, the terms of the condition should have been reviewed to be addressed. And so all these vendors can be held accountable. So besides a few lessons learned that we talked about in the F&O meeting, the conditions of the RFP is very clear and the expectations are there. At the end of the day, we need to stop this. A change is really needed to bring quality standards to our school system. These standards, it starts with our operation team. It's gonna better our teaching and learning environment. I urge the school to look at consequences needed that need to be enforced, non-negotiated terms, and seek mediation. There is nothing good that anybody could say when we were left out like sitting ducks. So I just asked you tonight to vote on compliance when it comes to terms, conditions, policies, regulations. It definitely tells a good story when it's in writing and the pen hit the paper. And that's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Downer. Other discussion? Dr. Joyner?
I really believe that Ms. Downer made some valid points. One of the real problems we have is our structural inability to do the monitoring necessary to hold people accountable, as well as the how can I say this? It seems that each year we have more problems with some of our private contractors. And I have seen that the superintendent is posting a facilities director position and a chief operating, and she's going to find a chief operating officer. We're having these problems because we are handicapped. We just don't have the internal structure and personnel to monitor this. And in the past, we've kind of depended on the goodwill of the people that we give these big contracts to. It actually has been much worse in previous years, much, much worse. And so I think she's absolutely right. I can't wait until we can hire the staff that we need. But we have to, in an era of declining revenues, we have to show the public that we are spending funds in an effective way. And someone should have to answer for example, when the superintendent followed the people during the snow plow, and she found that they hadn't done what they claimed to have done. And that's the top of our organization seeing that. So we're gonna have to do something about it. I think if this was a personal contractor working in your home and you found these issues, I think you'd have to sit down with that person and say, listen, where do we go from here? And I think that we're gonna have to do that. It's not easy, it's messy, but that's the nature of the beast. So I'm in complete alignment with her positions on this based on information that I have. But I will say that there's a bit more monitoring going on now than there was when I first got on this board. It has gotten better, but we cannot do a good job until we have a chief operating officer and a facilities manager that will be able to investigate, help develop contracts, monitor, do quality assessments, and whatever, so that we can expend our funds in a more effective way. And I'm not blaming anybody on the board, not at all. To me, if you say you're going to clean snow and you don't clean it to the satisfaction, then that's on the vendor. If you say that you had 20 people that you sent to work on a day, you only sent 10, that's on the vendor. But it's our responsibility to make sure that when we find these problems that we deal with them. And it starts with the contract and as well as all these other agreements that we can get that will ensure quality control and quality workmanship. That's all I have to say on that.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Mr. Wilcox and then Dr. Benitez.
Thank you. I will be voting in favor of these items tonight. I certainly agree that we've had issues with SJ's services on part-time custodial. That's why we're devoting time at our next F&O agenda on this, and it's been on several other agendas to talk about this. I was going to mention it in my F&O report later this evening, but the putting this out for bid for rethinking part-time custodial, that bid item closed, I believe, last week. And so we will soon have potentially other options in front of us for those services. But for the item in front of us tonight, for ABM coverage on these events where SJ Services did not provide the services, ABM did. It's been provided in testimony here, and I believe at our last board meeting that we actually saved a little bit of money over what it would have cost because ABM stepped in on this. And they did so as it was an ongoing situation because, as Mr. Carter has testified, he was in the process of working with SJ trying to get them to come to an agreement to provide these services. So for these reasons, I'm going to be voting yes on this tonight. Since the work has been done, the vendor needs to be paid, and we've had confirmation that no other vendor was paid for this work except the one that we have in front of us on these two items this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Dr. Benitez.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox, and because I was just going to ask, I'm assuming if you're bringing this to us, that the members of this board were all present at FNO, had a conversation about this, should have had clarification. I'm a little bit concerned that we are discussing this now, but everybody has a right to disagree on things. I will be voting for this. As you all know, I don't like to not pay for work that's being done for this district. It's not good business, I don't think.
Thank you, Dr. Benitez. For myself, I'm voting in favor of this. I agree with the comments that have been made. SJ Services did not perform this service that they agreed to perform. And at the district's request, ABM did perform the services. And the two items that are before us is to pay ABM for those services that do not overlap with what SJ Services did do beforehand. The other comments, suggestions? Ms. Downer.
I just wanted
Yeah.
to say there was one individual from SJ Services that did perform work. And there was a memo that was sent also.
Yes, thank you. And you're referring to the gentleman who, or the member that had particular expertise that stepped in to help. You're correct. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Okay.
Additional comments? Dr. Joyner?
I'm going to vote yes for this, but bear in mind, I have a lot of scar tissue. And I don't want to raise the dead, so to speak, but there's been some, this is the first time that I've heard the board call out a particular contractor where there's proof that the person didn't do their due diligence. So I really support that. But we have to keep doing this. And I, like Dr. Benitez, when people have done the work, they should be paid. And I'm voting yes for that. But I'm also glad that what you just said, and also what Ms. Donald just said, there was one SJ person who did do his job. And you indicated that there was no duplication, that we didn't pay SJ for work they didn't do, that we paid ABM for work they did because SJ failed to rise to the level that we contract with them for. So I look for better days ahead. And I applaud all of you for the kind of work that you've had to do to dig deep. And we ought to have a little statue of Mike Carter in front of City Hall for some of the work that he's done to try to make sure that we're protected. But I urge the board to carefully consider future contracts, to have a frequent monitoring system, to evaluate projects and repairs in such a way that we'll know who did what, when, and where, and how much it cost us. If we're a system that's based on data and metrics, then there are metrics out there that could easily help us evaluate the work of people that we pay as private contractors, not just in maintenance, but also in some of the academic areas where we have people in after-school programs. So again, I applaud the board for this. And I also applaud Ms. Downer for her experience and Mr. Wilcox and you for the hard work you do on the finance team. This is a good board. This is the first time that I feel comfortable moving forward with some of the stuff that we struggled with in the past. And I'm talking about the first 4 to 6 years I was on the board. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Thank you, board, for the conversation. We'll now vote. Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Dr. Joyner?
Yes.
Ms. Downer?
No.
Dr. Benitez?
Yes.
Mr. Juarez?
Yes.
Mayor Elicker?
Yes.
I'm a yes as well. That motion carries. Mr. Wilcox?
And finally, I move that we approve the one abstract, the remaining one agreement, the one amendment, and the 2 contracts listed on our agenda.
Second, any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Dr. Joyner?
Yes.
Dr. Benitez?
Yes.
Ms. Downer?
Yes.
Mr. Juarez?
Yes.
Mayor Elicker?
Yes.
I'm a yes as well. That motion carries. Next on our agenda is the students' report. I don't know if they
They're on
submitted
spring
anything. Okay, they're on spring break. Oh, excuse us.
We
I'm
should
sure
do-
they have Wi-Fi where they have spring break, but okay. Okay, we'll skip that for now. Hope they enjoy the spring break. Superintendent's report.
Yes, thank you. Tonight, I'm going to be joined by our Chief of Finance, Linda Hannans, as well as Christine Bourne from the Office of Finance. We are bringing forth to you our proposed general budget. As you may recall, this has been a topic that we have presented at FNO extensively. We also brought it to this table as well. And we have gone back to continue to look at possibilities on how we can best mitigate our current fiscal situation as we think about the year ahead. I will need Ms. Camacho to help us out by putting up the presentation. Next slide, please. So again, I want to share, actually, before I share, I do want to take a moment to extend my gratitude to members of my cabinet, members of the executive leadership team, Ms. Linda Hannans, Christine Bourne, Lisa Fregler, and many others. We have spent weeks, extensive hours, going through every single school budget, every single contractual service, looked at every single opportunity to arrive at the best scenario as it relates again to our proposed general budget. I want to stress that we have done our due diligence in what we are going to present to you today. Again, the objectives, as we had shared in FNO before, we were aiming to get, number one, at a transparent budget process. That is why there were multiple conversations held in our FNO committee, because ultimately we are trying to get at an equitable and site-based budget that will support the instructional core and also get us at a balanced budget. In our next slide, again, to remind folks about our demographics in terms of student need and the students who we do this work for. We are in service of them. Always take a minute to show the number of school facilities that we are supporting, as well as our demographic. And with that last row, the level of need that currently exists in our district. In our next slide is to give everyone again a glance at where we have been as it relates to enrollment. Here you will see that our enrollment has trended downwards since 2017. We'll wait until we mute that. Mike. Ms. Camacho, are you able to mute? Thank you. As a reminder, in our next slide, not to the board, because the board completely understands this, but to the public in our next slide. We are funded, all districts in Connecticut are funded based on the educational cost sharing formula. The formula begins with a foundational amount that was established by the legislature, which right now and has been consisting of $11,525,000 per student. That foundational amount has not changed in over a decade. So we start with a foundational amount for every child, and then there are weights that are added to that foundational amount to get at the funds that are necessary and required to support students with greater need. So right now, that formula accounts for low-income students, so there's a weight for that. There's also a weight for multilingual learners, and there's also a weight for students who are living in concentrated poverty. Those are the only components of that ECS formula. If you have been following a lot of the press as of late, it has not only been us in New Haven who have been advocating for changes to ECS. There has been advocacy done by teachers union. There has been advocacy done by students. There has been advocacy done by multiple districts, because right now we are in desperate need for that formula to be updated to, number one, catch up with inflation, and second, to increase those weights to properly represent what it requires in 2025 to educate a child. So again, just wanted to remind folks about ECS. Based on that formula in our next slide, that is what we are expecting to get in revenue. We are expecting to get 142.5 in our alliance, in our ECS cost sharing grant, and 28.4 that is part of that ECS, but comes to us as alliance grant funding. So that's all that we are expecting to receive as it relates to state funding. In addition to that, we would get our inter-district grant, which right now we are projecting at about $36.8 million, and then what we get for tuition billing. But that is all of our revenue. That's it. In our next slide, we do have a reminder for the public that, again, when it comes to grants, we're going back to what we used to get back in 2016, 27. Actually, it will be a little lower. We're expecting 84.7 because the influx of the ESSER dollars and ARP ESSER, that's done and over with. And I also want to remind folks that although we are expecting the 84.7 in grants, and in our next slide, you see the grants that we currently have as of that we are projecting for 25, 26. I also want to remind us all that every day, every week, we read about changes that are happening in the federal government. And a lot of those our grants pass through the state to us, but a lot of that funding comes directly from federal grants. So this is what we are expecting. This does not necessarily mean that tomorrow we turn on our TVs and there's a whole new story about what is going to be cut. So again, that is all of our revenue. In our next slide, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Hannons, who has been working to put together our budget.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Negron. I'm going to talk about our projection summaries and what we've done with the budget so far, even working right until this afternoon. So what happened is to tell the story, last year we had asked, we had requested 220 and we ended up getting approved at 208, which left us coming out of the gate at $11.8 million shortfall. In 24-25, we took the 208, 263, 784, and our request for 25-26 based on that number was 225, 216, 777, with no new requests. It was a status quo budget. And the difference brought us at $16.9 million, an increase that we asked for 8% rounded off. Then in 24-25, we said, okay, fine. We have vacancies. We have a lot of things that we have not been put into the budget. And I'm sure you all hear of all the things that are the buildings that we can't keep up to par, or just various things that we have not been able to do. So we said with this budget, we were just going to put everything on the table and start from there. So what happened is that we had 208, 263, 784 again. Our real budget increase, our budget request would actually be 231.5, which includes all vacancies. The one previously did not include any vacancies, the status quo budget. So we came out the gate needing 23.2 million, and that was an 11.15% increase. What we've been working on since we came up with the numbers and increases that we needed, what we were working on just until today, matter of fact, and we're still working on it when we leave here, we did the projection of 23,231, 181. We were able to work on reductions of 5.895. So now the difference comes down to 17,336,18 that we are still looking for. So with that, what we did was then we said, okay, our proposed budget, let's put it all on one sheet instead of previous where we did share those with finance, but we just put everything all together. So what we're showing on this sheet here is the actual request with the actual cost, which is the 225. So that brought us down to, we needed 16.6 really $million more. And that was an 8.14% cut. Then with our request staff, actual cuts and vacancies, that's everything on the table. We were coming in at 231, 494, 972. And you could see there's that 23 number again, the 23, 231. So that would have been an 11.15% increase. What we worked on for the last just about 3 or 4 months now is to, as Dr. Negron alluded to earlier, we've looked at every single expense that we have to see how we could mitigate the impending shortfall. So today we actually came up with the numbers of 225,599, so 2256, which leaves us now with 17.3 at a percentage rate of 8.42%. So as you can see, we got some numbers down, but they're not nearly enough. But this is where we are today, knowing more work is still needed. I don't even know if I need this anymore. Is that up there? Okay. For the revenue assumptions, we updated those as much as we could. Looking at some of the numbers are just coming in to be verified. I think some come in May. So there are going to be tweaked a little bit, but this is not far off of where we're going to be. And as Dr. Negron alluded to earlier, with the 142.5 is still the education cost share. And then any new money has to come in through the Alliance grant, which is now at 28. Keeping in mind, though, that the Alliance grant is cannot fill the need of our deficit. So and all the Alliance grants, you must put in new programming. So we have to look at now how we're writing our grants and how we can pick up some of the costs, but make sure that we're within compliance issues and we're supporting, not supplanting. So, not much has changed on this sheet. It's still an active document, but this is for 25, 26, this is where we think we're going to be. This page here is because of the categories, and we couldn't list every single category on the summary budget page because that would be like 4, 5, 6 pages longer. So what we've done here is with the proposed budget, we try to show you what the categories are and then the description of the category. So you'll see, like in instructional supplies, you can have stuff like equipment that has a life of less than a year. And if something happened to it, of course, you would destroy it. You wouldn't try to replace it. Special ed tuition, natural gas is all under utilities. Transportation would be buses, bus passes, interdistrict transportation. We also include special ed and field trips as well. And then our other contracted services could be our business travel, any workshops, any uniforms, postage, contractor services, legal services, and legal settlements. So that's just to give you a short overview of when you're looking at a category and you see numbers changing, you say, well, what's in that category? This tells you what is actually in those categories. And matter of fact, this is the way we report out when we have to do the reports at the end of the fiscal year. So we try to keep things in with the state codes. Our notable cost drivers, the main one basically is 8.43%, and that's all under personnel. We have our next large one is out of district tuition, and then our third one is transportation. All of our full-time staff are part of collecting bargaining agreements, so whatever the agreement calls for, that's what we have to do there. Of our 4 largest bargaining units, the following contract changes are in place for 25-26. The teachers, we get a bump, administrators, we get a bump, paraprofessionals, we are still in negotiations, and management, no step movement in that fiscal year. But there's a 3% raise. So all other salary changes are to be negotiated. Our transportation contract renewal for July 25, our anticipated increase is 2%. We just received our contract, but for 25, 20, and going forward, it's 2% for the next fiscal year. So that would be the 25-26 year. We also have price escalation is spelled out in our long-term agreements. And those are agreements that we have for more than 1 year. So whatever those price increases call for, that's what would be, those would be your maintenance and tuition and other costs, like things that we already have gotten notification that will be expecting increases in there. And then we have escalating special education costs. There are things in plan. I mean, in works for us to try to get those costs down. And then also we had our state regulated increase in those. That's for our charter school. And I think it's 7% for 24-25. So what is the impact now of what we've done thus far? We have a reduction so far of 4.3 million in full-time salary cost across the district. We're thinking of eliminating all non-student facing part-time staff. Substitutes, should be able to reduce our substitutes based on our right sizing plan. We have to reduce our summer school offerings and locations. We're trying to eliminate overtime, which will result in less buildings being open in the evenings and weekends. We also had done a $1.5 million reduction in non-personnel costs, so that hit general ed supplies. Our tuition, we're thinking of bringing a program in-house, which would save us money. Our contracted services, we were talking about bundling, like some schools have contracts, and we're thinking, okay, fine, let's pull them all together and bundle them and hope that the vendor will give us a better price. We may have to do multi-year, but if we can get a better price, then it's worth it. We're also thinking of looking at our legal services and see how we can reduce those costs as well. And I think that was it on that slide. The next slide basically is just gives you our budget timeline. So right now we're at the part where we are presenting our budget to the board for a vote. And then next week, our budget hearing with the Board of Alders Finance Committee is the week on the 24th. So I like to keep folks up to date so we'll know where we are and to take action accordingly. What we don't know, the effect of the uncertainty in Washington on our current budget and future funding, the effect of declining enrollment, which will have on grants. Some of our grants are entitlement, but they're also based on enrollment need, costs due to unfunded mandates. I think we had a few last year that came out. We have increased costs for healthcare and other benefits, impact of inflation on goods and services. We have increasing costs of special education services and outplacements. And then also costs which are due to aging infrastructure at our schools. And that doesn't include the emergency costs, which happen just about every day. And we have to include those costs in our budget, which were not originally budgeted. So our final thoughts at this point were the award, just want to mention what the funds that we received with ESSER and how extremely helpful they were in designing robust academic and other improvements for our students. We also, due to increased costs mentioned in earlier slides and decrease in grant revenue, we are facing serious gaps in our resources, which will result in a loss of programming to students, such as increased class sizes, reductions in class offerings, cuts in athletics, after-school programs, just to name a few. We will continue, as we have always done and as we do every day in the finance department, to explore new sources of funding, opportunities, as well as continuing the challenges to close the gap. And I will now turn it over to Dr. Negron for final words.
Thank you, Ms. Hennons. So again, I want to reiterate that with all the work that went in, looking at everything, we were able to find that 5.8 worth of cuts. I want to reiterate that every single one of those cuts is not an easy cut. Every single one of those cuts means that we're going to continue to combine classrooms wherever we can. So we will be going from small size to bigger size class based on contract, wherever we could do that. Even looking at high school courses where maybe there were small number of kids and saying that course can run next year, we probably have to look at the following year. So every cut will hurt in terms of what it does to the experience. We are trying to stay as true as possible to the learning experience snapshot that I had provided earlier. I just noticed that that slide didn't make it on there. I'll make sure that it gets added again, where we spoke about we still have to provide for academics. We still have to provide or integrated instructional models for students with disabilities and or MLs. We still need to provide academic and behavioral interventions. We still need to tend to the whole child by looking at their social and emotional supports. We still want to hold on to our college and career pathways. We sure do not want to be cutting our athletic program. So we're keeping that intact. Doing some reduction even on the team that we have been utilizing to address student attendance, while keeping some of that team, and also making some cuts in professional learning, but still having professional learning so that we can continue to be on top of our game. So again, to put it bluntly, I don't know what else to cut. I have looked at everything possible that we could cut and still be able to open the door so I could sleep at night and feel like we are still providing our students a public education. That's as far as we've gotten. That's a 17.3. I wanted to again be transparent and show you today exactly what it is that we have in this proposed budget. So with that, I guess we'll pause there, and Ms. Hannes and I will open it up for questions.
Thank you, Dr. Negron, Ms. Hannes, Ms. Bourne. Questions, comments? Dr. Benitez?
Thank you, team. This, I am sure this, something that everybody, thought very thoroughly about because, we cannot, spare anything of what we have. So I know that for all of you, this was a very difficult, process. But I have a question, and one of the things, and this is pennies, but I have a question. We usually allow community members to use our buildings without pay. Is that something that we continue to do? And should we consider not doing that anymore, or making sure that people are aware that we cannot afford doing that? That's one question. Second question I have is, when we have students who receive special education services, who are out of district, they are perhaps from through Magnet or through Open Choice from other districts, and we provide the services as we do for our students. Is that district responsible for some of that spending, or is that completely on us? Those are the two questions I have on expenditure. And then two statements I want to make. I want every staff member and every community member to understand that we must keep our lights on. We must bring our kids in, and therefore we all have to be willing to make sacrifices, ones that do not touch the academics. And second, I would like for us to think about how do we support the district as volunteers from the community. And I'm sure that requires much more thinking and much more planning. I don't want to burden you with too much more, but those two things I wanted to say. Anyway, I'm asking the faith community and other community organizations to think about how they may support community programming so that we don't have to open our huge buildings for activities that may require a smaller space. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Dr. Benitez, I think I can answer your two questions. As it relates to building usage, I know that in FNO, the plan was to take a look again at our tier system in terms of usage, to be able to revisit and update that, because I believe it has been the same rate for many, many years. Mr. Wilcox, you might know a little more, but I know that that was one of the things that we wanted to do. So for example, when somebody submits a use of facility, sometimes they'll have to pay the cost of the custodians or the cost of security guards, but those rates again have not been revisited in many, many years. So those are the rates that I'm speaking about, that there's interest to take a look at that to ensure that, again, we know lights, right? Electricity has gone up. Every time we have to open a building, even at night or the weekend, even though somebody has a user request, that's an expense that we're going to have to incur. Thus, we want to adjust the rates for those use of facilities. The second question that you posed related to Magnet and Open Choice, please keep in mind that part of the revenue that we do get is the inter-district grant. So those are the funds that come in. So for example, last year we got $36.8 million based on the number of kids who participate in Magnet or Open Choice.
Thank you, Dr. Benitez. Thank you, Dr.
So-
Negron.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
have a follow-up question, sorry.
Yeah.
If I may. Then my question is, does that grant cover special ed services that are beyond what would be a per pupil, which is, I understand what they pay?
So what we get is a per pupil allocation as it relates more on the special education side, which I think I might have heard you say something. I know there's litigation going on right now related to reasonable cost versus actual cost. So there's a big debate as to what that means. So right now, for example, Waterbury was one of the folks that were part of that litigation. We were part of that as well, and we did receive an update, and it is something that I know Attorney Alexiades is going to be looking at with us to see whether we're going to be jumping on into that litigation as well.
And Dr. Benitez, if I might add, we do bill the individual towns for the students that come outside into New Haven for special education services directly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Benitez. Mr. Wilcox, and then Mayor Elicker and Dr. Joyner. Mr. Wilcox?
Thank you very much. So thanks again for this presentation. My understanding is you're going, is it next week for next Thursday, going to the Alders to present this. And I mean, it's a budget with a big gap that's in there, gap between what is needed in this district, which is obvious in terms of number of people we have in the buildings and the buildings themselves. There's this gap between what's needed and what we have. And I think this is largely due to our per pupil funding gap between what we have in New Haven compared to other towns. We're below the state average. And when you have big numbers, because we have a lot of students, but it's less money per student, it doesn't mean just because we have a lot of students that our students are cheaper. And in fact, one of the slides points out that we have a lot of English language learners, kids with special needs, homeless children, et cetera. So our needs are certainly pretty high here and in other districts. This is just a lot of difficult choices the district has to make. You know, I just couldn't help but think that on that impact slide that you all presented, of all the things that you've been working on trying to cut your budget, which was the one that you said you can't go below without cutting things, there you are having to go below and cut things. And everything on that impact slide, you know, eliminating programs, cutting supplies, all that, staff, et cetera, none of those things should have to happen. And it's unfortunate that we're in this position where you all have to be planning of not having enough, and then what else are you going to cut? And again, it's our per pupil funding is lower. And I think, I still think that we need to have the worst case information slide presented before this goes to the Alders, just to make clear that from gathering what we're saying here, is unless there's increased city contribution or much preferably the passage of SB 1151, which would address things like indexing ECS formula to inflation, that's what really needs to happen. But if we don't have those things, we're going to have these cuts that were talked about tonight and even worse. And these students don't deserve that. Our staff don't deserve that. It's demoralizing enough. That's just going to add further to it. So I hope everybody is contacting their state representatives and state senators and so on, asking them to support increasing per pupil funding through things like SB 1151 so that we can actually have what these students need. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Mayor Elicker?
Thank you. I'm sorry if I'm not clear on it. If you could just reiterate, so the impact slide is what you've already identified for cuts, but there is still a large deficit after you implement those cuts. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mayor Elicker. And to Mr. Wilcox's question about what is the reality? With the 5.8 cut, we're talking about 103 positions. 103. And that still leaves that 17.3 gap.
So the impact slide had the highest line was a $4 million full-time employees. And those you're suggesting are vacancies or they're actual filled positions?
No, some of those are active, like these are people's lives. They're in those positions. Only about 40 of those positions are vacant.
Okay, and then beyond that, there is still a $17 million deficit.
17.3.
So I agree wholeheartedly with Mr. Wilcox that we have to be explicit about not just the 5 million that you've already identified in cuts that are very painful, but the entire 17 million of what happens if we don't get an increase in funding from the state, because it's way more people, it's many more layoffs, because that's where the bulk of the money comes from is personnel budget, because that's the bulk of our budget. Than the number that you've outlined in the 5 million cuts.
And the challenge right now, the dilemma right now is that with those 103 positions that have been identified for the cut, resulting in the 5.8, at least we're still able to hold on to provide kids an education. Is holding on to their core, is holding on to their arts, music, PE, is holding on to our athletic program, right? To find the other 17.3 in staffing, that is where right now, in all honesty, don't know what else we are able to do, because even that finding that 103 was extremely painful.
I understand, Dr. Negron, but if we don't receive additional funding, you'll have to do that. And I think it's fair to the legislators who you present this to, for them to understand the gravity of the cuts, because otherwise you're presenting something that says it's already bad and you're not presenting the scenario that is currently the trajectory here. And so I strongly encourage you to outline what it would look like if we did not get that additional 17 million on top of the 5 million that is already painful.
Again, we're going to continue what we're doing. I don't know how much drastic I can get. One of the pieces that we were talking about this afternoon, I know that there are models that happen in other states where they take a look at an opt-out program as it relates to transportation. And right now in this district, we transport everyone, not just to school and home. We transport to home and to babysitting and to program. Maybe that's something that we cannot continue to do. So knowing how much we paid in transportation, that was going to be one of the areas that we were going to look at to see what if there was a high school opt-out program, because right now we're paying for everybody when we know not everybody rides that bus. That somebody can say, hey, I am not going to take the bus. That can actually translate into the actual number of routes that we would need, or within the contract, because we do have a contract with the bus company. So that's going to be one place where we are going to look at. Again, if you want us to look at cutting all sports, we can cut all sports. We can see how much that equates to. But I feel like there are no more cuts to be made in the classroom.
I understand. I'm just asking that you be very direct and honest with the legislators about what the consequences are of not getting an additional 17 million on top of the 5 million.
And we will do so. And again, I wanted to share with you guys the scope of the magnitude of what we're talking about.
Thank you, Mayor Elicker. Dr. Joyner?
I just want to support what Mr. Wilcox and what the mayor said about giving people the unadulterated truth about the desperate nature of our circumstances. We are in a let them eat cake era in American politics, especially as it relates to education and human services. And even if we get everything right at the state level, and we still haven't done that, we need to do that, we're going to struggle. But I really applaud you for what you're doing. And I would liken what Mr. Wilcox and what the mayor said to a doctor looking at your lab work and finding that you have a really serious problem and then failing to tell you about it. We need to let people know what the implications are of this for kids, as well as parents that work for us who may lose their jobs, and that will have a ripple effect on this community. The other real big structural problem that nobody talks about is something that Dr. Benitez raised. We get kids from other school districts, and there's a formula that reimburses us for them. But is that formula fully reimbursing us? In other words, if we get $36 million because of our magnet program, and we have X number of students in that program, does that $36 million cover the full cost of educating those children? And there are lots of costs other than the ones that are obvious. The other thing is that Dr. Benitez made an appeal to the community to help us out. And we're going to need that big time. If you do believe in what you do to the least among us, you do to me, if you believe in that, then you ought to be the first person knocking on the school's door saying, how can I help? If you believe in the story of the Good Samaritan, then you ought to be knocking down doors of schools saying, how can I help? The only way this country has gotten to where it is now is because there were brave people at every level of society that truly believe in the greatest good for the greatest number, that everybody's entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that's the biggest resistance that we're going to have to push back now, because there are so many people in power who don't believe that and who have willfully manipulated people into thinking that they are the answer. We can't allow that to cause us to quarrel in our own city. And we can't allow that to cause us to quarrel with our state folks as long as they are doing what is required in terms of giving us our just due. And the last thing, and I keep repeating this, New Haven has less than 50% of taxable properties in its borders. And our institutions, our schools, our medical facilities, our cultural institutions support the entire state. That ought to be worth something. And if not, that means we're being pimped. We're being pimped. And I'm sure everybody out there knows what pimping is. And I hate to use that word, but we got to use whatever means necessary as long as they're morally and intellectually defensible to help people know the trouble that we're in and the kind of hard work that it's going to take for us to get out of that. And I rest my case.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Thank the superintendent team for your presentation on the budget. And I've been thinking about the conversation about how to represent the deficit, the 70.3 million, and how to name it, how to talk about if it doesn't show up, like the money doesn't come in, what are the further cuts? And I'm torn because at some point, we can remove something such that we're not providing the public education that the state has committed to provide. So for example, if I think about from a medical standpoint, human body, got 2 kidneys, okay, I can get rid of 1 kidney and still function. But the heart is not optional.
Yeah, there you go.
At some point, you get rid of the heart, you don't have the person. And so I'm a little torn about acknowledging where additional cuts will come from, because some might say, oh yeah, go ahead, cut that. You named it, go ahead and cut it. Well, what if we do cut athletics? What if we do cut arts? What if we do cut some of the programs that we know our children need for career, or that our children need for going to college? What if we do cut the faculty? What if we do cut the leadership? At some point, we're not going to have a functional school to present, or a functional program to present. So I agree that we have to be clear on what the deficit is. And I think we also need to be clear on what it is we are legally charged to provide, and what we morally agree that we're going to provide. And the state needs to be clear on that as well, because they're leading this effort. And so if we say there's nothing more to cut, you can't have my brain, then I think we need to say it and be clear, under no uncertain terms, can these particular roles in whatever magnitude not exist. So maybe we need to do a combination of things depending on who we're speaking with. But at some point, we're not going to have the education system that we are charged to provide if we don't have the resources to do it. Other questions, comments? Mr. Wilcox pointed out that, and I see you, Ms. Downer, Mr. Wilcox pointed out that our superintendent and the staff are going to present to the alders, Board of Alders, on next week, this draft budget. So I just want to reiterate that. Ms. Downer, please.
Well, I just wanted to just say that this is just very disheartening, you know, but I know the truth, you know, I know that the state, you know, can't provide us anything because, you know, it all trickles down to what's going on in Washington, D.C. I too am leaning with Dr. B and everyone here. Yes, we need to call on our faith friends and, you know, help us through this. So, very disheartened because, you know, I can't even think about what's actually gonna happen. But I stand with everyone, the mayor, Mr. Wilcox, Dr. Joyner, and Dr. B, and Mr. President, I stand with you.
Thank you, Ms. Downer. Yes. Dr. Negron.
I just wanted to add that, yes, it's very disheartening, it's concerning, but I also want to remind folks that our state has a rainy fund. It has a rainy fund, and right now it's raining on our students. It is raining on the future of our state. It is raining, and that's what that rainy fund is for. And I know that there's will from our state legislators to want to do something. All of my colleagues, this isn't just about urban environments. This is about all 169 public school districts who are in the same predicament because we're all being faced by the same fiscal challenges. There is will to do something about it, but there has to be increased pressure up at the state so that those guardrails can be loosened up, so that finally we can get the help that we need. I am grateful for what the local has done to continue to support us. I am grateful for what our delegation has advocated for, but we have got to come out in masses and say to our governor, Governor, it is raining on our kids, and our kids deserve better.
Thank you, Dr. Negron. Is there more to share for your report?
That completes our report.
Thank you, team. Next on our agenda is the president's report. Just a quick note that with the superintendent, with the executive board, we're working on a board orientation and retreat, and I will reach out to our team for dates and times that may be available for getting together for 3 hours. Any questions or comments? Thank you. Teaching and learning, Dr. Joyner.
I have a brief report, and I'm going to send some information out to the board. Having talked to a number of teachers and students in some of our buildings, Ms. Donald was with me on one of those conversations. I think we're going to have to, I'm going to ask the board to work with me to create a committee on education of at-risk children for 2 reasons. One, we need to look at what our current programming is, and in lieu of our previous discussions, clearly we don't have all the resources we need to help kids at risk. But we're going to have to look at that to look for more efficiencies and make sure that we know that we don't have any blind spots in that area. And at the same time, we're going to have to do more to help our teachers. Some of our students are engaging in behavior directed towards staff members that's just unconscionable. And we can't have that. Absolutely not have that. And so in working with this at-risk committee, I'd like to work with the superintendent and the board to identify the membership. I believe in workforce committees that have workforces, work teams with them. And I think there should be about eight teams. One would be the data collection and analysis work team. Another one would be needs assessment and research work team. A third would be program evaluation and improvement. The fourth would be intervention and support services. The fifth would be professional development and training. Sixth would be family and community engagement. And the seventh would be policy and advocacy team. And of course, we'd have to have communications to envelop all of that. I think just as we are telling the truth about our fiscal needs, we also have to talk about the conduct and behavior of folks in our buildings in a way in which we can get students the support they need, but also help them understand that some of the things that I know are being done to staff is just not appropriate, and we're gonna have to deal with that because it's demoralizing enough not to have resources, but it's even more demoralizing to walk into a building and know that you're not being respected and that you're not allowed to teach or to do your job well because of 1 or 2 people. So that's gonna be a big issue for me now, and I'm not gonna move forward until I get the endorsement of the board and the superintendent. I'll submit a prospectus to everybody, and then of course I want to make sure that we invite all stakeholders to be a part of it, because we do have to own the problem ourselves, and we have to take the responsibility that has to be taken in order to see changes. It is a different era. When I first started teaching, there were some real problems, but schools were not responsible for kids showing up. That was a family responsibility. It seems now that we're saying that if we have a poor attendance in a district, there's something wrong with the school district. So I think we have to clear up some of those myths and also make sure that we accord responsibility where it lies, and that we create the safest environment, teaching and learning environment we can for our students. So again, by the next board meeting, I will have sent something out to everybody, and we can act on it and decide where to go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Any discussion? Next, Dr. Joyner, Facility Naming Committee report.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Mr. Wilcox, Head Start report.
Okay, this will be brief because our next meeting is this coming Thursday on April 17th, and we're going to be hearing about the results of the recent Focus Area 1 review and another monitoring view that the district went through. So that is coming up on Thursday.
Thank you. Any discussion? Citywide School Building Committee Report. Mr. Wilcox?
Thank you. This group met last Thursday, in addition to the stewardship report, which should be posted for everyone to see. We also had update on future plans for the Cross East Rock Sports Complex. We asked for this to be added to the standard stewardship report, so we'll get a regular update to it like we do with other large capital projects in the district and adult ed, et cetera. And also we had a recommendation for a group to look at the current issues because there seems like there are some gaps between, because it's shared space, city-owned, city-maintained in a lot of ways, but also used by the schools. And so recommendation that there's groups from the district working with the city and also athletic teams and families to look at the current issues just to see what can be fixed now. And then also we'll have future information about the next phases for other construction projects at the complex, sports complex.
Thank you. Any discussion? Finance and Operations Report, Mr. Wilcox?
Finally, in addition to the action items we've already talked about and voted on this evening, we had an update on the adult ed lease. My understanding is parties are coming together and we'll be hearing more about this as a board in future days. And that, let's see here. We also had an update on the RFPs for the part-time custodial and facilities management. I mentioned previously the part-time custodial did just close last week, so there'll be the scoring committee looking at that. The facilities management, we were told that one will soon be posted. We also had, and it's linked to this agenda, I believe, for tonight's meeting, our draft of our discussion item calendar. So this is just kind of the upcoming for the next few months of things that are on the discussion calendar items. If anybody has any suggestions for additions, please send that to the committee, which is myself, Ms. Downer, and President Yarborough, and to the superintendent. And finally, just a reminder that the F&O minutes are posted as part of the board every time. And if I don't cover something verbally in the meeting, that is also there. I'm sure everybody takes a look at it, but just as a reminder that has the record of what happened at the meeting. So thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion? Dr. Benitez, Governance Report?
Good evening, Board of Education and members of the public. I have two policies to provide to you for first reading. The first one is 5114, Student Suspension and Expulsion Process. This is to update our policy according to recommendations from CABE and state legislature. In addition, we have first reading for parents, family, community partners, responsibility, involvement, and civility policy. We would like to provide you with both of those for first reading. And we remind you that when the policies are long and important policies that require your time, we may have a second reading a month from now, and giving you time to respond to the committee prior to voting. So if you can all please take a look at that and make sure that you send any comments to Ms. Downer or I, and of course, Ms. Tiffany Jackson, who very strongly supports us. That's, we met to discuss these policies on the 26th of March. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion? Thank you. Seeing none, the Food Service Task Group report, myself. The task group met last week. The district food service team is working on menu enhancements for the next year. And they're also developing bids for the 2025-2026 school year. The food gap is operating now in terms of this week's break, and Witnesses to Hunger representative leader and United Way leadership partnered with the district, Danny Diaz, and 300+ families put in applications to receive groceries this break. And there's a new model where these groceries will be delivered by Havens Harvest. That's an additional partnership. They have a model of delivering rescued food. There is a commitment to maximize the students and families that are reached. This is also a goal as it relates to our summer food programming. The Food Gap Group received a donation from the Yale New Haven Hospital Give Healthy campaign, 6,000 pounds of fruit and produce, and it's close to about $10,000. And this will happen, I believe, annually. And the school break groceries team is asking Yale University for $285,000 to do 14,000 bags each break. Importantly, the school district is also involved with food sustainability, and I'll look for the minutes to provide us with the details of what's happening. But Michelle Martinelli, who is on the ABM team, leads the sustainability and energy conservation effort. And there are 4 schools that piloted reducing organic waste, and that has gone up to additional schools this year. And I think the record is 22,000 pounds of organic waste kept from the landfills because of the effort of New Haven Public School students and staff and families. So there's more information in terms of food sustainability, and I look forward to the minutes coming out and the report getting to you. Any discussion? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Ms. Downer?
Yes.
Dr. Benitez?
Yes.
Dr. Joyner?
Yes.
Mayor Elicker?
Yes.
Mr. Juarez?
Yes.
I'm a yes as well. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night, everybody.